Welcome to another episode of OG55. I got the Italiano with me. We are reacting to not just one Bricky video, we are reacting to two Bricky videos today. A lot of great content from Mr. Hey Brickey. We're going to react to these two videos up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We're breaking down some Hey Brickey videos, two of them today, actually. Well, actually, technically three, but that third one is actually a little bit of a surprise. It's pretty awesome, actually. But before we get started, the Italiano is back at Italiano HQ. It's good to have you back, sir.
So glad to be back on OG55. I know I did a video with you guys while I was out on location in Anaheim, but it's just not the same. You know, it was still a great time, but yeah. I mean, it's always great to, be back and doing our thing.
Yeah, absolutely. If you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is.
Young blow, but I'm built like an OG.
There we go. Let's get the party started today, Mr. Hey Brickey. So we have two great videos actually from Bricky that we're going to react to. But before we do that, this one was very, very interesting. Now, I will say the title of the video, it says TikTok channel has stolen my identity and TikTok won't help. Now, thankfully, this issue that he is referring to here from a couple of weeks ago has been resolved. So that is the good news. So I'll let you know. But it's actually something that he said in this video that George and I, we'll play it and we'll talk about at the end. Here we go. Let's rock and roll.
Where lots of people publish videos, people re-edit those, take segments out, use other people's B-roll. Like, I'm into the open source content creator universe that exists. It's fascinating to me to see how things get recycled over and over again. I recycle people's content and people recycle mine, and I enjoy it. For example, my friends over at Orange Grove 55, they take some of my Disneyland Forward videos, watch the entire thing. They take a 15-minute video and turn it into a 1-hour conversation. And I absolutely love seeing their opinions on my work and a lot of my content, like my oddity series.
So really, really awesome, and humbled that he gave us that awesome shout out. So Bricky, if you are watching, thank you, brother, for that. That meant a lot. It really did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought I was seeing things and hearing things, the fact that he actually took the time he could have easily just said what he said, about recycling each other's content and creating new content. He could have just left it at that. But the fact that he added in a segment to actually mention us, mention the channel, and not even just that, but show a clip of us reacting to his video. Yeah. I mean, to actually take the time to do that and incorporate that into his video on his channel is... Yeah, I mean, I'm usually never lost for words, but that actually, took the cake. It is actually very humbling. We appreciate him. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be doing, even to this video today and some of the other videos that we've been doing. So, and we love his channel. We love his content. We love what he does. And Bricky, again, the invitation's always there for you, brother. If you want to come on Orange Grove 55 for an in-depth discussion, please, definitely, you're always welcome.
Yeah, no, he makes fantastic content. That's why we react to so many of his videos, because the thing I love about what he does, over there, is that he really does stimulate the nerd juices in our heads. Like, because he comes with it where he makes you think. That's the kind of content I absolutely love, whether it's in the Disney space or otherwise, and Bricky makes you think and wonder and use your imagination, and that is really for me, that you can't get better than that. Whether it's Disney content or otherwise, you know. So
and honestly, it's stuff that he makes you think about that you really don't think that you would think about. You know, it's topics that you would say, you know what, yeah, it's part of a conversation, but to do a whole video on and really dive deep into it and dissect it into pieces like the way he does is just brilliant.
Well, it's cool too as a community, like he was mentioning in that video, as a community to sort of take ideas and kind of bounce them off of each other as a community. That's great. That's what this is all about, you guys. That's what this is all about. That's what makes it so fun to do, because you speculate, someone else has a different idea. Oh, I never thought of it like from that angle, you know, and you kind of build on each other. It's just really awesome.
Yeah.
But we have, oh, go ahead, George.
No, I was just going to say exactly. That's exactly what as you said, this community is about. That's what Bricky represents. That's what we represent, you know. And then there's just others that just be hating.
Hey, wait, we got wait, hold on. Oh man, you caught me out. I'll have to do it later. But let's go ahead. We got this video. This is only about 20 minutes, and then we have another video from Bricky, which is a little bit shorter. So we're gonna go ahead and play it like we always do here on the channel. We're gonna play it, and then we're gonna go ahead and react along the way. George, if there's anything that you want me to, stop at, just let me know. Just say, hey, OG, pause it, and we'll go from there. Okay?
Sounds good.
Now here's a little disclaimer. I haven't seen either of these videos yet. I like to go in kind of blind and kind of get my raw reaction. George, though, has seen both, so it's kind of interesting. Here we go.
Today, what we're going to do in the Disneyland Forward series is I'm going to break down the future of the Disneyland Hotel. I've seen a lot of people sort of wondering about how the new theme park expansions will go along with the existing hotels. I've been telling you for a while now that there will be proprietary, like private entrances from the hotels into the new theme parks. None of this is going to happen tomorrow, but long-term planning, I do believe that the Disneyland Hotel will offer its guests an exclusive entryway into the new theme park. But let's break down a couple of things today. Where do I think that entry and exit point that will be exclusive to Disneyland Hotel guests to get into the new theme park? And also, what will happen to all of the parking for the Disneyland Hotel? There's a lot of moving parts over here in the northern west corner of the Disneyland Resort. Today, let's take a walk around the Disneyland Hotel, break down all the different moving pieces and all the things that we need to be keeping an eye on as Disneyland Forward officially starts today.
Yes.
It will take a long time to get to where it's going, but it is an exciting time, and I love doing these little walkarounds, showing you all the little details, all the different ways that Disneyland could indeed grow in the future. Bricky here with another Disneyland Forward series video. Let's get started. I'm so glad you showed up. But let's break down how the entryway would work once Disneyland Forward fully takes off. There are two options to get people in and out of the hotel, and one of them looks pretty calculated. And this is one of those things that when we look at it from the satellite, you could see, oh, somebody did plan ahead for this expansion a long time ago. Wow. So far, the most difficult part of convincing the city that Disneyland Forward was a good idea was acquiring Magic Way. Now, it hasn't officially already happened, but it's been approved to happen, and it's in the plans. The idea would be is that Magic Way would become a part of the Disneyland Resort and no longer a public street. However, it is my understanding when they do purchase Magic Way that the plan isn't to shut down the entire street, because Magic Way is essentially divided up into three major sections. And I believe this first section coming off of Walnut is safe. I believe they're going to want to keep this here as the main way for folks to be able to get into the Disneyland Hotel. And also, there would really be no reason to shut off this part of the street unless everything over here becomes theme park. And we look at this from the satellite, you can see that this parking lot is isolated going straight up to the Disneyland Hotel parking garage.
Right.
If they do keep this as part of the Disneyland Hotel, then therefore they're going to want to keep this small section of Magic Way from Walnut Street over to this first stop sign. They will want to keep that. And
that makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. I never considered this. That you're going to want to keep that for the hotel. And now technically, I mean, anything's possible. They could reroute or have other options. But I think this is the safe bet that they're going to keep it and just kind of utilize what we have there. What do you think, George?
Yeah, I agree. I think if that is the route that they would go, I think that would be the easiest way without, as we all said, and even Bricky has said it, Disney can do anything. You know, nothing is off limits to them. But I think that with certain things, they're going to want to cut corners to get things moving quickly because they have bigger fish to fry, so to speak.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's necessarily cutting corners, but it's also like you have to kind of play it smart, right? Like, why reroute if you already have something here that gets you in there easy? You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
more so of cutting corners to the fact of you're getting from point A to point B as quick as you possibly can, so you can move to from B to C.
Exactly. You don't want to do you want to go from
Common
A to B.
core math,
right? You don't want to go to A to F to D to Z to Y to You want to make sure it's and this is already there. The infrastructure is already there. Why not just keep it? So I think Bricky's on the money with this.
Yeah, just a straight, clear, narrow path. No pun intended.
Absolutely.
Flowing with traffic so that people can get into the straightaway that will take them to the Disneyland Hotel. And then everything back here on Magic Way, starting from this intersection over, would be backstage. This would probably be a service road for theme park development that would be happening to the south. Therefore, there would be no reason for pedestrian traffic to ever go this way because this would be backstage theme park property. So any traffic that comes in would stop here and immediately have to go south. So everything over here would be theme park, and then everything over here, as I understand it, would stay parking, therefore keeping that one little bit of Magic Way open. I also think that Disney would like to sort of preserve the grand entryway to the Disneyland Hotel. A big part about staying here is the drive-up experience. So I kind of just see all of this staying part of the hotel, but being right on the edge of theme park. But keeping Magic Way doesn't have to be the only option, because if we look at all of this from above in the satellite, it does look like somebody planned ahead. And this wall right here could be knocked out and take people straight over to Cerritos. Let's hop over there where I can show you not only the origin of Disneyland negotiating with the city of Anaheim, or vice versa, but also how somebody cleverly left an expansion pad over there, allowing the Disneyland Hotel to be capped off exactly where I'm standing, and everything behind me potentially becoming theme park.
Oh.
I don't think that will happen, but I love to show you everything that I do believe is possible. Now, let's say that for argument's sake, they do close off all of Magic Way, just cap it right off at Walnut. There would be the availability to take Cerritos and connect it right into the Disneyland Hotel. Because when we look above from satellite, you can see that somebody thought ahead and said, maybe at some point we might need to make this happen, because the street in front of me perfectly flows into the parking lot and around the Disneyland Hotel parking structure.
Wow.
Which was perfectly placed to allow this expansion opportunity to happen. So somebody somewhere was planning ahead of maybe some point we might want this to be able to connect back to Cerritos.
And really, that's not far-fetched, because that's what Disney's all about. They look so far into the future. So even before it was even titled as the Eastern Gateway Project or Disneyland Forward, many, many moons ago, they probably said, you know what, in time, eventually we could, find the right moment to allow, development to happen at Disneyland where we can expand our parks. So let's kind of finagle and build around where, when this time does come, it'll make sense.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it could be, it doesn't have to be an either or situation. Like, he's bringing up two possibilities. Well, the first possibility, keeping Magic Way and that access route to the hotel, could be phase one. And then that little strip of parking or whatever could be eventually phase two, and they use the Cerritos route for phase two. So it's a kind of a future forward thinking sort of situation. So very interesting stuff. I love the work that went into this.
Yeah, because it's going to be a 40-year plan, so it would make sense.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Which, in a twist of fate, Cerritos being given up to Disneyland on the other side of me here, this was the compromise that got Disneyland inside of Anaheim. Long story short, they were thinking about building on the other side of Ball Road. That property wasn't available, and they almost left Anaheim. But the city of Anaheim didn't want to lose the opportunity to work with Walt Disney, so they gladly capped off Cerritos. If you were to travel down this street and to keep going straight, it would eventually take you on the little road that's on the other side of the Emporium and where the fire department is inside of Disneyland on Main Street, USA. So I don't think that they'll end up knocking this wall out and making this the connection point. I think they're going to leave Magic Way and need that parking for the hotel.
At least initially.
But it is possible. And with the Disneyland Forward series, I always like to show you all the possibilities and then also kind of tell you what I think that the probabilities are from those possibilities. So this could happen. I probably don't think that it would, but who knows? But with the Disneyland Hotel also having a convention center, probably don't want to rely exclusively on that parking garage. So in this scenario, Cerritos Way would come through. The edge of the Disneyland Hotel would be right where I'm standing. Everything to the north would become theme park, and everything to the south would be Disneyland Hotel. I keep wanting to stress, I don't think that this is going to happen, but I do want to show that it's possible. With this being the Disneyland Hotel parking garage, they do have a decent amount of parking, but I don't know if it's enough because, like I've also said, below the parking garage, south to it, is where there's also a convention center. And somebody who comes here a lot, they do host a lot of conventions. So I think that this parking will still be a part of the hotel. This is the current way that people get into the hotel today, but then there's also the sneaky way over here that somebody somewhere planned for a long time ago. I would love to hear in the comments below, which way do you think that will work? I'm voting this way, but the other way would be interesting because it would give Disney a lot more space for future expansion. But I think they're just going to hold on to this a little bit longer. There's just some design elements that you need to keep in mind for a hotel. Most people that stay at a hotel do have a vehicle, and they want to be able to pull that vehicle up to as close as possible as they can to where they're staying. The unload and load of a hotel, especially for families with small members, talking about kids, it's so important to be able to easily unload and load. So there's going to need to be a significant amount of space that's kept in front of the hotel for all the coming and going of the many Disneyland Hotel guests. So the parking lot that is directly in front of the Disneyland Hotel, I think this parking lot is going to serve a lot of purposes. And ultimately, I believe that it is a safe part of the future. But let's go down on the ground and walk around it so I can break down to you why I think that this will stay and how it plays into a much larger part of Disneyland hotels.
He brings up a great point, though, in terms of convenience. If you're staying at a hotel, you don't want to park far. You don't want to park far with all that luggage, like he was saying, with kids and everything. You want to get to as close to the front as you can. So I think he's onto something with this in terms of this parking lot. Okay. At least directly in front of the hotel.
Future with Disneyland Forward. So moving forward, the hotel will still have to have a couple of things that it already has. It will have to have its load in, load out location, but then also an overflow for valet cars, dropping the cars off here in like short term, but also a place where valets can bring a car around when somebody calls their car up for, say, a 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock pickup. I was a parking valet when I was in college, got to drive every car imaginable. Wasn't the worst job I ever had. But they will need to have this lot over here, this overflow parking lot for short-term parking needs. This would be where black cars would go for VIP guests. This space, that short-term parking area, is one of the crucial essentials that a hotel has to have. So I believe that parking lot is just as safe as, obviously, this area up front where everybody comes and goes. You just have to have that grand entryway to make it easy for families to not feel rushed, so they can take a big breath and go, we're finally here. Our vacation's getting ready to begin. Nobody likes to feel rushed at TSA. Nobody likes to feel rushed checking into a hotel. But also add into another level of complications. The Disneyland Hotel has a convention center that is adjacent to it. This brings in a lot of guests that are staying in the hotel, but also
there's something about the Disneyland Hotel that no matter how many times they renovate it or update it, it looks outdated. There's just something about it. Like, this looks so outdated. And I know they've repainted it. I know they changed the color schemes. I mean, it's not like they've just let the Disneyland Hotel sit for years and years and years. They've been working on it. But it still looks like a relic of the past for some reason.
Do you think that's Disney's intention?
I mean, no. I think it's and to be fair, I think it's a money saving thing. I think, well, yeah, it's a money saving thing and also a logistic thing, right? It's very difficult to bulldoze this hotel because you lose occupancy in the meantime, and that hits
Right.
your bottom line. It's also very expensive to bulldoze and rebuild. So I think it's money money from all different angles is kind of what I'm saying here. So yeah, I don't think when you say is it intentional, like a creatively intentional decision? No, I don't think it's like, oh well, it's old school because mid-century. No, I don't think anything like that. I think if they really wanted to go full bore with the mid-century, they would bulldoze it and do like what they're doing with downtown Disney. But I think it's really just a money thing, and they don't want to lose the rooms in the meantime.
Do you think also attached to that, do you think that could be their long-term view that eventually they do want to bulldoze it? Maybe once they get the zoning kind of together, that they start building another hotel and then eventually bulldoze, because once they open up the new one, then they could take this one down.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Like maybe if you build the other one, that kind of relieves a little pressure. The loss isn't so bad. You kind of mitigate that loss. Personally, I've been advocating for that for a long time. I think the new DVC tower that they built looks gorgeous. If you can kind of do all the towers like that, like bulldoze tower by tower and kind of rebuild them in the same aesthetic of that new tower, I think you're cooking with major gas. That looks amazing. It's just the old school buildings look old school. And no matter how many times they put lipstick on that pig, it still looks old to me, and it's just, it irks me. It really does. It's not, some things are old and it's cool old. You know what I'm saying? Like the 1960s Tomorrowland is like that retro future, and it's like a throwback, but it looks cool. This is just outdated. It's like shag carpet. It's just outdated, and it's like, I don't know. Just my opinion. I know I'm going to get a ton of heat for this. Everyone loves the Disneyland Hotel. A lot of people like jump on me for saying anything bad about it. For me personally, though, I think it's super outdated, and I would love to see them kind of bulldoze and start from scratch.
And for anyone that has any complaints on OG's statement, you can email Michael Webba at Gmail.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Mr. Webba. Exactly. He's our PR guy. He'll handle it.
That is adjacent to it. This brings in a lot of guests that are staying in the hotel, but also a lot of short-term guests that are just visiting for the convention, making the two parking lots out front even more important for the massive load ins and load outs when an event is getting ready to begin and an event is getting ready to end, where you will have several guests all trying to come and go at the same time. With hotel guests that are checking in, sure, it gets backed up at times, but largely everybody's kind of on their own flight schedule, their own travel schedule. So it's a constant drip all day, obviously with peak times. But the convention center adds in the big influx of a lot of guests in a condensed area in a condensed amount of time. So for anyone who's imagining being able to walk right out of the hotel and go into a theme park, that is very, very unrealistic. I do believe there is a path to get us over to the new theme park, but it won't be just out the front door. There is still,
and see, that's where my idea comes in. If you could bulldoze the old towers and rebuild them, you're not married to the current location of these towers. You could do the Fantasy Springs thing. You can adjust and work a new layout, into the equation. I don't know, man. Personally, that's what I would do. I would get super ambitious and do that, but I don't think they're going to do it.
Exactly. And that would be a win-win. That'd be a win for the hotel and for the theme park, because it would actually be, walking, as Bricky was saying, you walk out into the hotel and into the park. What does that do? That heightens the theme park. That heightens up the price value for the hotel room. And because everyone would want to just walk right out into the hotel, into the theme park. And then, as you said, and while doing that, you're also updating the hotel itself.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm telling you, if they did my idea, it wouldn't be the price it is now. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
It would be way higher, bro.
a lot of logistics that need to happen, even with a theme park hotel. And those logistics are the through line that we can't avoid. Like, those are the baseline for everything this hotel needs to do. All of the theme park is a perk on top of that, but you have to let people have a quick way in and out. I've maybe over-explained this, but I like to give everybody every little bit to think about on why things work the way that they do. It's part of me being a designer that I have to fixate on every little detail and how each small piece plays its own little bit in the choir of life. However, with Disneyland Forward on the horizon, one of the biggest things that's going to change with the Disneyland Hotel.
That plays in the choir of life. That was beautiful. That was poetic.
That was very poetic.
I really like that a lot, actually.
Is I believe that eventually, and this could be a decade away, it will have.
Can you pause that really quick?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I got you. No, I got you.
Bricky, I know that you're listening because you do watch us. So if you want actually an idea for something to add more to your merch store, put that slogan on a shirt and add that to your merch, because I guarantee you that'd be a banger.
Oh yeah, would you say that would be money?
Give me the drop, some money, dropping on my money, drop some money.
That's a money idea. That's a money idea.
Access into theme park. One of the things we're going to look at today is where I believe that path or paths could lie to where if you stay at the Disneyland Hotel, you have your own way in and out of the new theme park expansion. We've seen them do this with the Fantasy Springs that just opened up over at Disney Sea. But if you think about it, this would really allow them to charge even more for the Disneyland Hotel, which is already in the luxury price point. But imagine not only having your own proprietary entrance into the theme park, but this would give them the availability to make this land early morning access or late night access like they do out at Walt Disney World, where luxury level hotel guests get an extra 3 or 4 hours.
And here's the thing: if you were to bulldoze the hotel and build it into the fabric of the theme park expansion, you could even utilize the new hotel, the new towers, in creative ways, even to act as like a berm to sort of block out the outside world, because the hotel would be themed, I would imagine, to whatever it butts up against in the theme park. And in Anaheim, that comes in handy. You don't have to really worry about that in Florida with the sight lines and what have you, but in Anaheim, it matters. So it would be you would kind of kill two birds with one stone, where you would not only you would provide more value to the hotel guests, because now you're in the park, basically, you're staying like right there by the theme park, but now you're also providing value for the theme park guests, where you block out a lot of that outside world and you create a more immersive experience in the park. So it does kind of kill two birds with one stone. And
also too, wouldn't that be like a tremendous feat for the Disneyland Resort, that if you were to have the Disneyland Hotel literally connect into Disneyland Park, you already have the Grand Californian Hotel connected into DCA, but then also when they expand DCA into the Simba lot, it would be adjacent to the Pixar Place Hotel.
Right.
So you could basically have all three of those hotels connect into the park itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll learn even more. I hope Disney's smart and they're learning also from Universal, because what Universal is doing with Epic Universe, I think, is a good model even for Disneyland Resort, because I think the Universal Resort in Florida is more akin to the Disneyland Resort than it is the Walt Disney World Resort. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And even with our potential third park, any third park that we have is likely going to be a distance from the current resort. It's likely going to be that Toy Story lot. Also, if I was Disney, I would take some notes as to how Universal handles getting guests from the resort proper to the new resort where Epic Universe is. Mm-hmm. Take notes, learn from that. You know what I'm saying? They are opening a resort that next year with a hotel, the Helios, inside that park. And it's also a distance from their main resort. The theme park is a distance from the main resort. Utilize that, Disney. Learn from that and see what they do and kind of take notes, because I think that's going to be very, very important.
Yeah, because Disney kind of already has done that with Tokyo Disney Sea, with the Fantasy Springs, but that's more so on OLC. With their kind of way of working into the park.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. So actually for the domestic parks, looking at Epic Universe, that's a very good template of, incorporating the hotel with theme park space. And especially, as you had said, OG, with the transportation, with the back and forth, when you have a park that is separated from the rest of the resort.
Well, yeah, and when we had theme park conductor and theme park wizard on the show a few days ago, Wizard was saying that that the hotel, the Helios, is going to be part of the nighttime show. There's going to be projection mapping on the hotel. So Universal is doing unique things with that whole hotel park kind of symbiotic relationship. That's why I'm saying Disney should really look at that. And when we're kind of working through Disneyland Forward, hopefully utilize some of these ideas too, because I think it could be really awesome out here in Anaheim if they wanted to do it
over regular ticketed guests. And that comes in very handy at Walt Disney World. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays together. But I do believe there are a couple of spaces that are earmarked to get guests from the hotel into the new theme park, exclusively a perk for staying at the hotel. Now, one of the fun things about Disneyland Forward is dreaming of when the park changes, what all will change with it. And there are so many little pieces that exist today that will be absolutely irrelevant once theme parks take over some of the parking garage. And one of those things that would be irrelevant is this little street that I'm standing on right now. There will be no reason for this street to exist. And if you don't know where I'm at, over here is the former ESPN zone. Behind me is downtown Disney. And straight ahead is where the future lies. So keep in mind that this street right now.
I hope, I mean, yeah, he's absolutely right, by the way, but I hope they get rid of that god-awful sorcerer hat. Ugly. What do you think, George? You think that's pretty hideous, or am I out of...
I'm sorry. That was awesome. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
You're like cracking yourself up.
Oh
no, okay. Here's my thing. I think that the sorcerer hat that they had for Hollywood Studios was hideous, and I'm glad they got rid of it over there. And I think this hat is equally as hideous, and I hope they get rid of it. Now, here's the thing. He's right. This street right here is likely going to go. It serves no purpose. It butts up right against that hat. I hope they get rid of it, but we'll see. Anyway,
I agree. No, I actually agree. I think it's. I understand like where they're trying to get with it, but just like the sorcerer hat at Hollywood Studios, it was bad for sight lines. And I know how you're a stickler. Cheap. It does. It's very tacky. It's basically almost like a cop-out decision. It's like we don't know really what to put here. Oh yeah, let's just throw in Mickey sorcerer hat from Fantasia, and it's like, yeah, I agree. Like I think that they could do something very subtle, but just as strong in storytelling while you're entering through that that entranceway.
Yeah, it just looks tacky. It looks very, I don't know, like value engineered or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Exist to get people from the north and the south of the resort. However, if Disneyland Forward brings theme park over here, this will all be backstage. Over on the other side, where the Pixar Place Hotel is, that will be backstage as well. So this quiet little path that I'm standing on, it will become completely irrelevant for the purpose that it serves today. Meaning that this path,
there's that hat,
sorcerer's hat to the future, will be the proprietary entrance where hotel guests can have their own exclusive way into the new theme park. Just like what we see at Fantasy Springs over in Tokyo, this is the area that I imagine will be that crossway for hotel guests, because once theme parks exist here, there's no reason for anything else to be here. Walking to and from the park will be a thing of the past. You cannot walk through backstage. You cannot walk through the theme park. The parking garages will have one option: the tram in and the tram out. Walking will be irrelevant, therefore making this path part of the hotels. And this pathway has always been such a breath of fresh air from all the chaos over at the edge of downtown Disney, or all the folks coming and going at the Disneyland Hotel. So losing it will be not my favorite. But then again, its sole purpose will completely change once it's a theme park and we can no longer walk into the park from the northwest corner. Mickey and Friends Pixar Pal parking garage. So I believe right here, this is that spillover parking lot that I was going on and on about. I believe right in here, this is the edge of where new development will begin. This Uber drop-off pickup spot, also where they have school buses come in for schools and church groups and different organizations. This will no longer be here because the entry point to here will no longer exist. As this,
that's a good chunk of land too. You know, it's funny. It's funny when you see this stuff like on the ground. It's like sizable. It's really like even like the bus unload area over there by Harbor Boulevard. You think it's a little tiny space, but you and I walked that bus load area multiple times to get to your hotel. Look, it's not, you're not going to fit any major stuff in there, but it's a sizable little area that you could fit something pretty decent, you know?
Absolutely. And yeah, and it's space that you don't really think about. And yeah, you're right. When we watch like these videos from Bricky and Dave from Fresh Baked, it's like, but when you're physically there, especially because when I went over with Ebba, when he was parked over in the Toy Story parking lot, seeing it for myself, like with my own eyes, it's pretty big. I mean, there's a lot of room there, especially for, you know, to utilize for a third gate. But yeah, all these parking
like
areas,
like the Toy Story lot and stuff.
the Toy Story lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at all this now he had mentioned like for like buses for like schools and church groups and like organizations. So will they reroute them to a different location? Will they have something? I'm assuming that they would have another drop-off location.
Yeah, anytime you lose parking or lose drop-off spots and stuff like that, I'm sure Disney will have to readjust that somewhere else. Absolutely.
Stage service road to get around the outer edge of the theme park, and then these over here will be where the actual development happens. And don't forget, at one point there was a hotel plan to go right in this area. So who knows, maybe with Disneyland Forward being approved, maybe that plan comes back online. But definitely a couple of locations that we'll be keeping an eye on is the Rainforest Cafe and the ESPN Zone. Rainforest Cafe, they're only using about 20% of it for the Star Wars Trading Post.
And here's the thing, I want to kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it is actually related to the Rainforest Cafe. That's the issue I have with Din Tai Fung. The Din Tai Fung building is gorgeous. It looks absolutely beautiful. The problem with the problem with the Din Tai Fung building though is that it's heavily themed to Din Tai Fung. The architecture is very Chinese, which is awesome for Din Tai Fung. The problem though, and we've seen it now with Rainforest Cafe, is if Din Tai Fung, let's say they go out of business as a company or they move out, well, now you have a Chinese building in the middle of downtown Disney with a bunch of mid-century stuff. So for me, it's kind of like, for me, it's sort of like, I would almost, as cool as it looks, I would almost rather it be mid-century. So when you have the, when you get rid of the vendor, the current vendor that's in there, right, you can swap it out more easily. You can't do that with the current architecture. You're stuck with another Rainforest Cafe. But what do you think, George?
You're right. No, honestly, it's just how you're wording it. It's funny still. No, you're right, because when you have a specific type of architecture for a building that is meant for a purpose and is relevant in the moment, but in the future, you don't know what that's going to lead to. Yeah, that's more costly to then have to renovate and restructure and rechange, possibly demolish the building entirely, build another one. Yeah, I would do something where it's more modern, but yet contemporary, but where it can kind of fit into whatever you want to put in there.
Right. I thought that was the point when they de-themed, like, Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen, where it was like, okay, we take the very New Orleans facade off, we kind of make it a little more minimalistic, a little more in tune with the rest of downtown Disney. I thought that was the point where, like, okay, so now if Jazz Kitchen leaves, it's easier to move another vendor in. But then they go and they build Din Tai Fung and they go all in on the architecture, which is awesome. It looks great. The problem now, though, is if Din Tai Fung leaves, now what do you got? Now you have this building where it's like, it doesn't match. It's not easy. You can't move in another vendor as easy. You have another Rainforest Cafe, essentially. So
now I have an ignorant question, because I don't really know too much of it. Was Din Tai Fung already being placed in before Disneyland Forward they knew was being approved, I assume.
Oh, yeah, they've been building this. They were bulldozing the AMC and all that like years ago. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, as far as for Din Tai Fung, like as far as like the architecture structure building of itself, like that was already happening before.
That was in the concept art from like 2 years ago.
Okay,
yeah, I mean that's from day one as far as we know.
So do you think even Disney kind of not regrets it, but do you think they're saying like, oh crap, like we did something that can kind of hinder where we would have to go back to the drawing board?
I mean, they should. I'm thinking about it, and I'm not a genius by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I you know, for me personally, if I have a space like downtown Disney, you know, you don't want to have like bare bones. You want to have some aesthetics to it, but when you make it so like purpose built for one vendor, I think it leads to problems down the road, and we've seen it with Rainforest. And look, they did the best job they could with that building with Star Wars. I think it fits decent in there, but it's still not the same. You know, if you had a more kind of minimalist or simplistic design in that building, it would be easier to save that building. Now you're almost forced to demolish it because it's so hyper, like the theme is too focused. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see.
Out front in the ESPN Fun Zone, that is where they do all the backstage training and performance training for all the different dancers and performers that we see inside the park. So they are using that, but they're using it for something that can easily be moved off stage. That doesn't need to sit there. That could be in Fullerton. But as I cross the street, I do feel like I am standing in the future expansion of Disneyland, and you'll be able to get there straight from the hotel on the walkway we just went down. So an easy way to put it is this sidewalk, theme park, this berm, hotel. And yes, there is this nice little cozy path that goes from the parking lot into where the expansion is going to be. But I kind of think they're going to want to do something grandiose. And I think that walkway over there would go more into the overall pinch point. I think they will still need a parking lot walkway to allow people safe passage over to their cars, you know, a place for valets to walk through. But it just feels so tight. And it would also mean that all the families that are coming over here would have to cross over the main walkway in front of the Disneyland Hotel. Whereas if they just walk all the way down the sidewalk like I did, get on that road by where the Sorcerer Hat is, you'd be able to get into the new theme park without ever having to cross a busy road where people are checking in and checking out and have 1,000 things on their mind and probably aren't looking at a crosswalk with families and guests of all sizes go through. So yes, this could be a possibility, but I think once that road no longer serves a purpose, its new purpose will be exclusive access to the new theme parks.
Nice.
And with it being so wide, it would give them the availability to theme it and potentially also make sort of a hotel pass where Grand California and Pixar Place guests all could use this proprietary path. Sort of if you have the hotel key, it would open up all those different paths. They do that with the luxury hotels out at Walt Disney World, where essentially they all get a lot of the same amenities. So I see that as being possible.
Smart.
It's so fun to try to figure out where it's all going and to keep remaking some of these videos now that we have more context on some of the moving pieces and moving parts on what to anticipate. And I would also predict that sooner than later, this entry security point will be a thing of the past and everyone will get funneled around into the new entryway that they created. And, you know, it could be, you know, very different than I'm laying it out. The ESPN zone could go, and that could be the grand entryway. We could walk up here and find the grand entryway. But I just wanted to break down to you that this road over here would be completely irrelevant once the new theme park shows up. And this is, you know, decade down the road.
So what do you think, George, is going to happen to ESPN and Rainforest? You think they're going to bulldoze those, or you think they're going to try to repurpose those? We haven't heard anything.
Yeah, we haven't. But I do know Bricky had mentioned them a lot in his videos where he's trying to even, you know, kind of, you know, figure out like in Disney's mind where they think. I mean, if they're buildings that they're not going to be reused anytime soon or repurposed for anything, I think if they don't have nothing like relevant enough that's going to go in them that would help them, I would just honestly say, just as Bricky mentioned, you know, 20% of the building that used to be Rainforest is now using for the Star Wars section. The other 80% is being used for entertainment training, and he said, that could be moved off site to Fullerton. So I think honestly, to kind of alleviate some room, and maybe they can kind of get creative with walking paths and also allow more breathing room for people to enter into the park on that side, along with the walking path from people coming from the Disneyland Hotel. I say, honestly, just axe them both, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning. I would axe them both and maybe build other buildings in their place or something, like kind of like what they did with AMC, where they bulldozed AMC and they built like a whole new area. You can do something like that with this as well. Or the only other option, if you're going to keep one of those buildings and you want to fill it with something, the one option that I actually think would be really, really dope, the Rainforest Cafe or the Star Wars store now, make it an Indiana Jones themed bar. Now that would be sick. That would work with the aesthetics of the building too. It kind of looks like a temple. You could totally do that. And it would look actually purpose built. It wouldn't look like you're throwing something in there like the Halloween store. You know what I'm saying? Like in the mall. It would look like that. Looks like an Indiana Jones building. That look would be dope if it was a whole bar themed to Indiana Jones. I would be cool with that if they kept the building and did Indy. Outside of keeping the building and putting an Indiana Jones bar, yeah, bulldoze that one, bulldoze ESPN, and reconfigure that. You can put new buildings in those spots, or readjust what you have to do.
I agree with you. I think if they were to do something that would kind of offset the aesthetics of the building of what Rainforest Cafe used to be, then I'd say, yeah, keep it. If not, definitely get rid of it. ESPN, I'd get rid of it regardless. I think that is just like a building that's just sitting there stagnant. They're not going to be able to do anything with it, especially with the plans of that. If all this is going to be true of how Disney's going to finagle all this, that I think that building kind of stands in their way, and I would just get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then really quick, I just wanted to mention, which I did not mention at the time when I was out there on my trip, when I went over to the Pixar Place Hotel to try to find Bing Bong, which whoever wants to see the photo, definitely check out my Twitter and Instagram. I have the photo on there. That while I was entering in the walking pathway over to the hotel, there were a lot of construction workers over there. I don't know what the purpose was. I don't know if it was part of Disneyland Forward. If anybody knows, down in the comments of if anyone has an idea of what's going on there. But for both days when I went over to the Pixar Place Hotel, there was a lot of construction workers going in and out of the building and around in the Pixar Place area.
That's interesting. I wonder if are all the rooms available now? Are all the rooms rethemed yet? I mean, I know we had the official opening, but maybe there's still rooms that are still the old designs, and that's what they're doing.
That's a possibility.
That's interesting. Okay, yeah. If anyone knows, comment in the comment section. I'm curious about that.
Easy. But as I've explained to you, if all of this is the entryway and exit way out of the Disneyland Hotel, and all of its parking is contained over there, there is no reason to go up and down this street unless you're a hotel guest that spent a little bit extra and you want to get that extra hour in that you paid for. I was workshopping this out with a friend earlier today. We were talking about, what about downtown Disney into the hotel? Will that be exclusively for hotels?
And see, that's that. Hold on, let me go back. This is the sorcerer hat that I'm talking about. It just looks cheap. I don't know. There's something about it that just looks so value engineered and temporary, and they've kept it for years.
Yeah, just like the hat that they did with at Hollywood Studios. That hat was only supposed to be there temporary for the 100 Years of Magic promotion back in 2001, and it stayed there for 4, 5, 6. What was it, like 7 or 8 years?
Yeah, I think this has been here probably even longer than that. I would get rid of it. I think it looks, like you were saying, it looks tacky. It looks like a temporary thing that they just said, screw it, we'll just keep it. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. And it's like, it's like an entrance into the hotel. It's kind of like if you're coming from downtown Disney, it's like your first kind of like impression of the hotel. It's just not great.
Hotel guests only. And I think during the daytime, pretty much anybody will be able to walk into the hotel that has a dining reservation or wants to go to the coffee shop. But I think eventually, after hours, or for the most time, this will become an exclusive path, because keep in mind, walking to the parking garage will no longer be possible. So essentially, think of it this way. Disneyland Hotel.
Even
will
those
be
stars
end of
look
the line.
tacky.
Once you get to the
It
hotel,
looks like, you know what it looks like, dude? Let me see. I'll show you right here. Give me 1 second. It looks like barbed wire.
It does.
It's just ugly, dude. This thing is ugly, ugly.
It does. Honestly, it looks like barbed wire, and then the bars that are used to actually shape the hat itself. It looks like something that you would find like on a jungle gym, like a playground.
Yeah, super cheap, super cheap. Disney, please get rid of this thing.
an exclusive path, because keep in mind, walking to the parking garage will no longer be possible. So
sorry, really quick. Actually, what it actually looks like, it looks like barbed wire over duct tape.
Yeah, it does. It just, oh gosh.
Disneyland Hotel will be end of the line. Once you get to the hotel, there will be nowhere further you can go. But if you keep in mind that eventually the only reason to come through here will be the hotel, it'll all be capped off. You know, I've been promising everybody, hey, there will be a proprietary entrance into the new theme park. And I wanted to do a deep dive, look at the satellites and think about, you know, what we know about the Disneyland Hotel and how it could happen. And when I started thinking about the future of this plot of land, it became pretty evident to me that this will no longer be what it is today when it's not a walkthrough. Friends, I hope you're enjoying the Disneyland Forward series. I hope you enjoyed it.
And we are enjoying the Disneyland Forward series. I love this stuff. I love, as a Disney fan, I love speculating about new projects. It's one of my favorite things about being a Disney Parks fan, is the speculation of the future. So this series that he's doing is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, before we move on to video number 2 from Bricky, any thoughts on before we move on?
Well, I will say, just overall, just kind of going off what you were saying with the Disneyland Forward series, I think it'd be kind of interesting that once Disney officially confirms of what they're doing and how they're going to do it and how they're going to tackle it, it'd be kind of funny to kind of revisit all these videos of Bricky and kind of see like where they kind of met, of like how accurate, you know, his findings were and everything. I think that'd be very interesting.
We could do that, because we might know, I mean, who knows? We might even know some stuff at D23.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. And we can kind of come back to like these old reaction videos, you know, and look, well, not even that old, a few months ago.
We can react to our reaction video to his video.
Right. Reaction to the reaction, right?
Oh man, talk about the multiverse.
Right, exactly. But it would be interesting to kind of, like, that's a great point, to kind of readdress it and see how close our collective speculation has kind of gotten. You know, I don't look. Disneyland Forward is a 40-year plan, like you mentioned. So we're not going to get all the answers in August, but we might get some of the stuff, like with Pandora. I'm pretty sure that would probably go into the symbol lot. You know, that's going to change the equation over on this side. So you never know. We might get some answers in August, which it'd be interesting.
Friends, Bricky here, doing another Disneyland Forward series video, going a little bit more in depth into a topic that we spoke about on a couple of the last videos. But I'm currently walking on the Quiet Nice Trail exiting Disney's Grand California Hotel, because we're going to take a walk up Disneyland Drive, and I'm going to point out to you all the reasons why Disneyland is not buying Disneyland Drive and turning it into theme park. This I can guarantee you. And I will do my best to keep road noise down, but it is a very, very loud road. So hopefully you can hear everything that I say nice and crystal clear. But right out of the gate, let me give you 2 great reasons why Disneyland Drive can never go away. Reason number 1, the Grand California Hotel. If you were to remove this street, Grand California Hotel would be landlocked.
Yes, and I've made this point before in many videos. How do you get people into the Grand Cali if you shut down Disneyland Drive? That's a huge issue. And, you know, you could probably figure a creative workaround, I'm sure, you know. But why make it more complicated for hotel guests? You know what I'm saying? When you can just build that bridge. And they do a good job. Look, we went over that downtown Disney bridge many times when you were down here recently, you know?
Yes.
you don't even realize you're on a bridge unless you hear like a cop car or an ambulance go by. You don't even realize you're on a bridge. And I think for theme park expansion, the bridge that would go from like DCA to the Simba lot, and say it's Pandora, I think would be even wider and probably even more shut out from the outside world. It probably would be a bridge that's maybe like has like almost like a cave kind of element to it. So you're really just surrounded by the theming. There's no outside. So I'm thinking like something like that. But yeah, you can't block the access to the hotels. I mean, that's a huge logistical hurdle,
Oh, and then also kind of going back to what you had mentioned right before we started this video, like with Pandora and everything. I think you're right. When they do announce that for D23, I think they're going to make that announcement for Pandora. And I think because they will mention that, they will showcase a little bit of the logistics, because they're not just going to say, hey, here's Pandora, it's going to go over into the Simba parking lot. Okay, well, you're going to showcase that, but how are we actually going to get over there?
Yes, and that's what I'm saying, when we might get some answers at the expo. So if they're going to announce Pandora, we might get concept art that shows us what they're planning, how they're planning to get people from DCA proper over to that, new expansion pad over at Simba lot. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do think, really quick. And I do think, in my opinion, I think it's going to be, Pandora, as far as like expanding DCA, and then also with Hollywoodland, I still think is going to become Zootopia. That's the two things that I think we're going to get as far as what D23 goes. But again, even with Zootopia possibly even going into the Hollywoodland, they're going to have to address expanding out the backlot area. So it's like rerouting the bus thing. So yeah, so you're right. So we are going to have to get some of that Eastern Gateway Disneyland forward rezoning in order for those big announcements to make sense.
Right. Yeah, we're going to have to get some of those details, I think, and I think if we don't get some of those details, I think fans will be frustrated. I think fans want to know, how is this going to be incorporated into the current park?
Exactly.
I would be kind of frustrated. And look, I don't know. Like I said, usually at these expos, Disney disappoints me. And it's not just the D23, even Star Wars Celebration. I usually get disappointed. I hope that if they give us Pandora, like more detail into Pandora, that's a part of their announcement. It's kind of showing how we're going to get from the park to the new expansion. If they give us Zootopia with an expanded expansion, if it says Zootopia takes over Hollywoodland and it goes into that bus load unload area, give us a little bit of idea what that looks like. I really want to see some details. Will they dive into the nitty gritty like that? I don't know. I'm not super confident, but you never know. I'm hoping we get some of these answers, but we'll see. It's a possibility. And it might not even be directly telling us what's happening, but it might just be artwork that shows us, and we can kind of figure it out with the artwork. But
yes, but yeah, so going off what you were saying here, yeah, as far as for Disneyland Drive, of what you have been saying for many times, yeah, if they landlock Grand Cali, there's no way they can't. They need a road for people to get in and out of the hotel, especially if they're driving. And even Bricky even covered that in the previous video that we covered. If someone is driving to their hotel, they don't want to feel all tensed and stressed of like, oh my gosh, where are we going to park? Where are we going to go? How are we going to get there? Disney's going to want to alleviate that, and they're not going to want to create a bigger blunder by maneuvering all stuff just for the sake of them saying, yeah, we purchased Disneyland Drive.
Now, the point of theme park expansion, the point of a third park, not the whole point, but a big part of the equation are these hotels. They want to boost the occupancy at these hotels. So why would you make it more inconvenient to get to the hotels when that's part of the point of these park expansions, was to get more people to your hotel? So you don't want to make it more complicated to get to the Grand Cali. You know what I'm saying? So he's right. They're not going to block that off. Now, maybe they can, and this is, I think, a long shot, maybe buy Disneyland Drive, but maybe bury just parts of it where you go underground and come back up for the hotel. That's maybe a possibility. Do I think that's likely? No, I think it's very unlikely. But in the world of possibilities. They could technically do that, but I don't think they will.
And really quick, bro, I have to, because you said maybe like 10 times.
Oh wow, yeah. We got our friend Maybe. Hold on one sec. And you know, when we say maybe, we got to give a shout out to our friend Maybe. Here we go.
Cause I'm that girl that drives you crazy, but you're killing me alone. Got you thinking maybe alone. Got you thinking maybe alone. Got you thinking maybe.
Shout out to Maybe. She's obviously family here at OG55, and she's a moderator also on the channel. So shout out to Maybe. All right, let's rock and roll. Let's go ahead and see what Bricky has to say. Here we go.
There'd be absolutely no way to get to the hotel. And while we're at it, Pixar Place Hotel. Pixar Place Hotel would as well be landlocked. So already, starting from the south, working up to the north, there's reason number one. This is reason number two. 2 stops indicating why this street has to say Disneyland Drive and not become.
And look at this. Okay, look at the view. When you and people are gonna get mad at me. I'm just gonna be honest with. I'm just gonna say how I feel. Okay, so in the comments, tell me how wrong I am and what a terrible idea this is. But when you look at DCA from this angle, when you're driving around and you see these giant coasters and all the kind of like this kind of local amusement park kind of elements peeping over the fence, it cements the idea it's a locals park. It's a locals park. It's a Knott's Berry Farm. It's a, you know what I'm saying? It's a Busch Gardens. It's a whatever. It just feels very locals park to me. They got to address Pixar Pier. And personally, I've said before, I would get rid of it. You keep the lagoon, obviously, because you want World of Color and nighttime shows. Build some kind of heavily themed harbor around that body of water, something like that, something a little or a lot more immersive. This looks like a locals thing. And, I think Disney wants to get away from the Disneyland Resort kind of being a locals thing to the extent that it is. Okay. Now, I'm not saying, because some people misinterpret what I say with this, I'm not saying they need to get rid of the locals equation altogether. Obviously, you don't want to do that. That's not beneficial to them at all either. But I think Disney wants, I think they want a higher percentage of people coming from out of state, out of country. And the best way to do that is to start looking like a world-class resort. This isn't world class. Like I said, this looks like a locals park, and you're gonna be looked at as a locals park if the aesthetics of it looks like a locals park. You want to fix this, I don't think it's anywhere in the cards. I think there's no desire by Disney to fix that, and that it's unfortunate. But and
honestly, and even with the strong IP of Pixar, to kind of subdue Pixar into a pier that you can't really do anything with except just use the IP as a cover for basically carnival rides for a basic seaside pier. And actually, your idea of a harbor would fit perfect because right next to it is San Francisco, which gives off this Japanese Asian type of cuisine, but it's also fixated on San Francisco. San Francisco, you have the San Francisco Bay Area, which can have a harbor. It's right off of there, so it would play perfect between San Francisco and then turning Pixar Pier maybe into, I don't know, maybe like Pixar Harbor or something. You could still keep the Pixar IP, but just refix it to look like a harbor, and then maybe put in a type of solidified kind of icon for that would kind of like if fit into on the outside, it would make sense, but then also on the inside, it would look like a harbor.
Yeah, you do a harbor, you would add beautiful rock work and stuff like that, really make it look nice, And like you said, you can have an IP attached to it. I mean, I'm sure they'd want to keep, if you want to keep the Pixar IP, that's fine. You can have a Pixar harbor and you can have beautiful rock work and waterfalls and all kinds of stuff. Maybe like little boats, sailboats or whatever. Very Disney Sea-ish, basically. Yeah. That would change the DNA of DCA so much, because DCA right now, this part of the park is such a big element of the equation for DCA. And if you change this and you make this heavily themed, heavily immersive, the entire opinion about the entire park changes. I think even more so than the changes that happened in 2012. If you got rid of Pixar Pier and gave us something really immersive, the whole dynamic changes 1,000%.
And as you mentioned, Tokyo Disneyland, like with Fantasy Springs, as with the rockwork and everything, you can have the rockwork carved out of into Pixar characters.
Exactly. You can do that. You can do that. You can do rockwork with various Pixar characters in creative ways. There's a million things you can do. Get rid of the local amusement park aesthetics. It doesn't serve the resort at all when you're trying to attract more out-of-state people.
Now, if Disney does have this in mind, I feel like this would be part of the long term. I think you're right. This wouldn't be right now because they would still need to offset something for guests to experience going into the park. I do think as Disneyland Forward continues year after year and they expand out DCA and you have more to do in the park, then I could see down the road, I could see them possibly closing down the pier, maybe in sections and reworking it, maybe to something different in time.
Yeah, we'll see. And you never know. We might be surprised. I was shocked in 2017 when they announced Pixar Pier. That came out of nowhere. Yeah. Absolute, just curveball, out of nowhere. So it's possible, man. I mean, they have done some weird stuff like that in the past where it's like an announcement that none of us even saw coming. Maybe they want to here's the other thing too. The Pixar Pier is going to be a connector to the new area, area across street into Symbolot. So addressing Pixar Pier might have to be a priority to them if they want it to flow into the new area.
Especially if it's going to go, if where we think Pandora is going to go. I think a harbor would fit more perfect, like with rock work. And as you said, with boats, I think that would move
into other rock work. Yeah.
And move it into crossing the bridge or the tunnel into Pandora. I think that would look much better than going from a pier into Pandora.
It doesn't make sense.
That seems very out of place, but I do agree with you. I think honestly anything is possible because you're right. They just updated the pier in a sense with the DCA 2.0, and then all of a sudden several years later they're updating it again. So
yeah, and let's assume that Pandora is going into that Symbolot. James Cameron's involved. He's a stickler for quality. He's a stickler for going big and being very ambitious. They might have to address some of this Pixar Pier stuff in order to integrate the transition into Pandora much better. We'll see. We will see. This is speculation, but
I could see James Cameron doing that. They could show him all the concept art and the area, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's all fine. My problem is what's over there before they walk into this land."
Right. It's jarring. It's jarring. One of the things that works so well with Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland is that you have the rivers of America, you have Critter Country, you have all the trees and everything, and it kind of transitions you in a beautiful, seamless way into the rock work and the elements of Batuu, right? Mm-hmm. This, you're going to go from a seaside pier with all these carnival rides and then cross over. Now you're in this heavily immersive Pandora. It's just a little too jarring. They're going to have to transition it better. We'll see. I hope they address it. I really, really do. But I'm not going to hold my breath. But I hope they do.
Because they would landlock the hotels. And do not give me some sort of weird idea of taking a monorail into these hotels. When you stay at a hotel, you need to have an easy way to drive your car up and to get dropped off.
Yeah.
I know some of you will come up with some sort of bizarre creative workaround, and I do respect your creativity, but creativity works best when it's tethered to reality.
Thank you. I love that. That's exactly correct, Bricky. And the thing too, like I said before, the whole point of theme park expansion, the whole point of adding a third park is to get more people booking hotel rooms. You don't do all this work to get more theme park, to get more people booking rooms, only to make it more inconvenient and harder to get to the hotel. Exactly. It makes no sense at all. And they're not going to do that. They just won't.
Again, it's just like that Common Core math.
Exactly.
Realistic way to make these two hotels accessible, unless right after the Grand California Hotel is where Disney dead ends the street. But let's shoot that one apart too. So we're beginning our journey going down Disneyland Drive. We're on the Grand Californian side, so that's the east side, and we are going from south to north, going up to Mickey and Friends parking garage. Already 2 reasons down, Both of these hotels landlocked. But if you say, Bricky, what if we cap it off right here? And what if Disneyland takes all the rest of this and makes it part of the resort? Oh, there's a major reason why, and I'll show that to you as soon as we get there. So we do have the monorail track that's already in this area, but keep in mind, if you're not super familiar with Disneyland versus Walt Disney World, here, the monorail is a Disneyland attraction. You have to have a reservation and a ticket to Disneyland to ride the monorail. Whereas out on the East Coast of Walt Disney World, anybody can ride the monorail. It's not going inside of any parks. It's a true transportation system, where here, it's actually a Disneyland attraction. Where I'm walking right now, the sidewalk is going down. We're on a grade. We're going to make a clearance of 14.5 feet. That is because we were walking underneath downtown Disney. So in the last Disneyland Forward series video, I talked to you about how Disney would be able to create land bridges that would take you from Disneyland to more Disneyland, from DCA to more DCA. And I talked about how it would be just like the one that we have for downtown Disney,
Right.
where when you walk across this bridge, you have no idea you're going across the bridge. You don't hear the cars, you don't see the cars, it's completely level and flat. It's a pretty great magic trick. And I asked you on last week's episode, do you know where it starts and stops? It starts at the Jazz Kitchen and it ends right over at the edge of the Lego store. That area right there, you're on top of a bridge. Hardly most people know that. And by most people don't know that, I don't mean it as it's like, that's a secret fun fact I just broke. But what I'm saying is most times when somebody crosses that bridge for the first time, they have no idea they are on a bridge. Now on the other side, we can see that we have the monorail station for downtown Disney. There's the Pin Trader shop. And I'd even talked about last week about how there could be stores or restaurants on the bridge, but they do a really good job of not diminishing the experience of crossing it. Now it does appear when they redid the monorail station and painted it blue, they didn't paint the awning blue. It still is very sun-faded green. This dip that I just went down, that illustrates what they will probably need to do if they decide to bridge these parks versus tunneling these parks. Tunneling, probably way more expensive. And here is the Tortilla Joe's. Its days are numbered. Will be interesting to see how they renovate that to make it match everything else. And then over here in this little gap, you can see that Parkside Market that is coming together. That's the edge of the downtown Disney construction. And the biggest reason why you can't cap off the road back at the hotels is because I'm currently walking past the delivery access for all of downtown Disney. You can't have shops, you can't have restaurants without having a delivery station. This road through here that I'm not filming because it is also a security checkpoint is the main access for all deliveries that go into downtown Disney. Just as important as the hotels, because you have to be able to have a pipeline for supplies. The way that it works is this road right here goes beneath downtown Disney, and all of the deliveries for downtown Disney are done in a basement below it. And I mean, it is a huge cavernous space. Tour buses, semis, like lots of stuff can fit down below downtown Disney.
Wow.
So losing that access would lose the way to get all the supplies and goods in there. And as you may or may not have seen, because I'm filming a lot of this in between red lights, if you were to cap it off here and make the rest of the road a dead end, that's not going to work because this is a major thoroughfare for the city of Anaheim. And man, oh man, do I miss this old path. Anybody remember this old path that you could take out of Disneyland at the end of the night? You could walk to your car without walking through downtown Disney. You could just take that little trail on the inside. Oh, I miss that so much. So sure, if you decided to cap off the street after this delivery and make it a dead end, yeah, technically you do that. And everything this way would be more Disneyland. However, I just don't see the city of Anaheim going for that. This road is super important, not only to the citizens of Anaheim, but it's also important to Disneyland, allowing people to get to 2 of their 3 hotels.
Well, yeah, look at the drama they went through just to get Magic Way, which is far less important than this. So I don't see this happening. And we've seen it in execution for 20 plus years with the downtown Disney Bridge. They can do it where it works. It doesn't break the illusion at all. I mean, you didn't even know until recently when Michael Evo told you that it was a bridge.
I had no clue. I had no idea. I passed that area how many times walking through downtown Disney, and it never occurred to me to look off to the sides and notice that we are above Disneyland Drive. Like,
It's
I would have
crazy.
never known.
Yeah, so I think they're just going to build bridges, and it saves. It's a convenience thing for Disney, but it also makes the most logistical sense as well. It doesn't. They don't get in the way of all the city stuff, the delivery stuff.
Yeah.
It just makes the most sense, and especially since it's not going to ruin the themed experience. They've already proven they can kind of close you out from the outside world anyway. There's really no point in not doing that.
And as you said, you know, they were having trauma just acquiring Magic Way. If they try to acquire Disneyland Drive, the residents will have a coronary.
Oh, I'm telling you, it would be crazy, absolutely crazy. So yeah, they're not going to do it.
Get around their resort and also all of their deliveries for their shopping district. And I just saw the most important delivery of the day. The Brinks truck just rolled through. You got to find a way to get the money in and out.
Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. Bricky said money, and when you say
money,
here we go.
Give me the drop, some money, dropping on my money, drop some money.
And you know what? We haven't played a Lil Wayne money drop in a while. Here we go. Wait, one more money drop.
Brand new money, brand new hundreds, got a bunch of zeros like a bag of new Funyuns.
There we go. A lot of zeros, like a bag of new Funyuns. Let's rock and roll.
What about the Disneyland tram and the buses that have to get guests back and forth to Pixar Pals and Mickey and Friends? This pathway inside of here is super important, getting everybody over to the Esplanade. You have to have a way to get people there. You can't make the entrance to the park in the back corner. I mean, you could, but man, would it ruin all of Walt's rules on how he wanted you to come in and consume Disneyland. That first shot, that first glance is so important. This would destroy all of that. While we're going on this Disneyland Forward stroll, don't forget, check out this playlist where I pretty much cover every little bit of the
And while he's saying this, I can't emphasize this enough. If you are not subscribed to Hey Brickey, do that. Subscribe to him. Like this video. I'll link everything down below. Make sure you check it out. He does amazing work. He has an architecture background, so he sees the stuff from a different perspective than like kind of like the architecture layman like the rest of us, right? So he sees it in a different way. Definitely check him out on YouTube if you haven't already, and make sure you subscribe.
Disneyland Resort, showing you its potential, showing you its problems, and trying to give a little bit of creative problem solving along the way. Subscribe to Hey Brickey. This is something that we do a lot, becoming your premier destination for all things Disneyland expansion, all things Disneyland Forward. I'm not going to stop if you don't stop. So thank you so much for subscribing today. And also sort of a mood point, but not too far over here is where the natural fueling station is for the trams. That's how they get those going. So yeah, it would be awesome if they bought this street and it all became part of the theme park. But what I believe is going to happen is this space right here, that's going to take us to the promised land, which is more Disneyland, as the end of Critter Country is right over in here. Over in here is where we will go over to the theme park. It all aligns. It's all crazy affordable, and it allows everything to keep operating the way it is. Just you and me, we get to walk over a bridge or go through a tunnel, but probably a bridge. But what I love about this series is I love reading all of the comments, seeing what your ideas, what your suggestions are, because with the Disneyland series, I'm working extremely hard to show you every little piece of the resort, how it all ties together, what things are possible, what things are problematic, and what things are probably impossible. But I hate using the term impossible because we have seen Disney do the impossible time and time again. But I think real creation has to lie somewhere in practicality.
Well said.
And let me tell you, friends, when you walk it this way, outside of the Disney puzzle, it is such a faster walk. Like, shocking how quick of a path this is when you're not going around all the Disney obstacles. They are really good at stretching out their space, which now brings us over to Magic Way, which this quick little like 2-block street was very, very expensive for Disneyland to try to purchase. It was also the most contentious part of the complete expansion plans, trying to replace Disneyland Drive, as compared to Magic Way, would be like, what, 20 times the effort?
Yeah, it would be.
100 times the expense.
And we just said that, like the residents and maybe even local businesses, who knows? I mean, it would be such a disaster. Like, we saw those Anaheim council meetings. You and I sat through those hours of it, right?
Yes.
And these residents would get up there and they would complain like you wouldn't believe over Magic Way. You touch Disneyland Drive.
Oh gosh.
Oh gosh, man. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. When you can build those bridges and you can create an immersive experience with the bridges, you just do that.
Yeah.
You know?
And as Bricky said, it would be it would be costly to, buy out Disneyland Drive, try to find ways to reroute the deliveries, the in and out of traffic. It's just,
and that's money that you could spend on park instead.
Exactly.
So yeah, doesn't make sense.
I just don't think that's going to happen. And I think that they could easily do it without making it happen, because don't forget, everything that's backed up on Disneyland Drive is backstage. So if they were to fully expose everything, you would just have to wrap around the backstage of everything, and it wouldn't be for a good design anyways. I mean, yeah, they could use the extra space, but I think the customer experience would not be worth the extreme cost and effort. And one important note to make, if they were to completely take over the road and you didn't have the Disneyland tram going back and forth, riddle me this, Batman, how would you get to DCA? Sure, you could put an entrance right here to Disneyland, but without the tram, how would you get to the Esplanade? How would you get to DCA? So not only does Disneyland Drive become a major artery for the city of Anaheim, but it's also a major artery for the Disneyland Resort, connecting 2 out of the 3 hotels, their service entry into the shopping district, and also all of their backstage for the most popular western side of the park, as well as their own proprietary transportation system, getting guests from 15,000 parking spots to the Esplanade, where they can choose their Disneyland adventure. This road is so crucial, so important. And I love that it has the name Disneyland Drive, because it just really shows how this street embodies so much of what the resort needs to thrive 365 days out of the year. Friends, ending up where we were just at a couple of weeks ago, but building out the Disneyland Forward series to where no stone goes unturned, no piece of the property isn't explained, and in the process, creating B-roll of every square inch of the Disneyland Resort. So as things change, we can always track the progress, where it was then, where it's at now, which is kind of the vibe of the whole channel. Studying Disneyland's past to better predict Disneyland's future. Thank you so much for showing up and watching. If you'd like to see more,
big shout out and thank you to Bricky for doing these, because we are loving them. I know our audience loves watching Hey Bricky. Really, really cool stuff. If you're a Disney nerd, it's like, how can you not love this stuff?
Yeah.
It really breaks it down, and it's right up our alley here at OG55. Absolutely. But interesting stuff, man. Between the hotels that he discussed in the first video and Disneyland Drive, it's gonna be a very interesting next few decades at the Disneyland Resort. What do you think, George?
Yeah, it's definitely, as he mentioned, we're moving into the promised lands, and I feel like, we finally hit that last stride into the finish line for Disneyland Forward. I think Disney did a hell of a job, trying to promote this, market it, get people on their side, whether it was the city of Anaheim, the residential area, the business side to it. So I feel like, Disney poured their blood, sweat, and tears, into this, and it's definitely going to pay off. And I think we're starting to see the headway of it, and and the way Bricky kind of breaks it down and dissects it all. I feel like he's pretty spot on and knows what he's talking about, and I think it's going to be pretty accurate. When Disney finalizes those breaking announcements to us, whether it's at D23 or whether it's just, hey, we wake up one day on a random Tuesday and it's like breaking news, Disney breaks ground on the Eastern Gateway project, and this road is going to move over here and this is going to be taken out. And it's like,
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it all shapes out. It shapes up. I think we're gonna like you said, we're gonna get this in piecemeal. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, there might be some D23. They might not even address it directly, but based on the artwork they give us or something, we might have an idea as to what they're gonna do. So very, very interesting stuff. Now we're at the middle of June, kind of almost towards like we're getting into the end of June now. We're getting there for the expo. I mean, we're about what? 2 months away at this point.
We are. Let's see where we're at. We're less than 2 months out.
So here we go. It's go time, Josh. It's go time.
Let's turbocharge, full steam ahead. Let's go.
He has to, man. He has to, because, like I said so many times, man, he wants to be CEO. He cannot afford to have look. Bob Iger already knows what's going to be announced. Obviously, you know what I'm saying. He signed off on it all. But if Josh gets up there and announces stuff or doesn't announce stuff, and fans are upset, I think Iger would kind of rethink Josh as CEO, because he's going to look at that and go, "Do I really want to put this guy in there and have another Chapek issue with the fans?"
Mm-hmm. And that would then put it back on his head again. But this time he wouldn't be coming back. He would just be leaving.
It would be 1,000 times worse, because now it's like the second time you couldn't get it right.
And there goes his legacy.
Oh, yeah. At least right now, you have Iger has a chance to fix the Chapek issue.
Yeah.
If he messes up again and puts someone in there that isn't right for the job, there's no saving that legacy. He can't fix it. He's got to get it right.
He has to. And I do think it's kind of funny, at the time of this recording, there were talks that, they kind of would have an idea on an announcement of who's going to be his successor before 2024 is up. And I thought that was very interesting, because, again, I think that they would probably make that announcement after D23, depending on the outcome of how it goes.
Right. After it will be after D23, probably November, December, like when they say by 2025, like they probably mean really at the very end of 2024.
Yeah.
But it was interesting who said that, though. It was Kevin Mayer who made that comment.
Yes, that was interesting.
So he knows something. Our buddy Seymour Beck was saying that too in the DMs. Like, okay, Kevin Mayer knows what's going on here, and they are. Kevin Mayer and Tom Theggs are working with Bob Iger. They are consultants for the television linear side of the.
I kind of wish it would just be them, to be honest.
I wish too, but you never know. Maybe that's why Kevin Mayer knows. Maybe he is part of that whole thing. Maybe he is the guy, or maybe it'll be Tom and Kevin, and that's why he's kind of saying, "Hey, wink, wink, it's coming soon." You know what I'm saying? It could be. I have no idea. I got no inside information, but it was interesting though that came from Kevin.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because of all our special access privileges,
I know, man. But they leave us out of those meetings, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
All those Bob Iger brunches to waste, right? I don't even get. Man, you think they'd let us in on the succession talks, but they don't. But George, if you let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. Comment down below with all your thoughts on the 2 Hey Brickey videos that we reacted to today, in terms of the hotels, in terms of Disneyland Drive, and if there's anything else you want to talk about in regards to Disneyland Forward, or really anything at all. You get Pixar P or whatever it is, comment down below. We would love to hear from you. And until the next time, have a great day.
Like iced tea, I'm OG. Like iced tea, I'm OG. Iced tea, I'm OG. I'm demon like IT. Got more juice than high tea.